You can find me on TikTok up under Vex Hippie. And you can also find me on Facebook under Sheena Cureton as well as Instagram.
Well, I'll have everything in the description to find her. And what are we talking about today? You actually requested it.
So today we are discussing Barron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey by Ingersoll Lockwood. And we're also going to be talking about his other book, which is 1900's The Last President, which has a lot to do with what's going on today. It has a lot of similarities, and some would say that he was a magician or a time traveler.
And some might say, Tania, what does this have to do with traveling? Well, it has to do with time traveling, and I love conspiracy theories. I know some people think they're silly, but I feel like this will be a fun episode to do. While I also talk about regular traveling. And I want to expand. I was scared that talking about traveling will make me tired all the time. Literally I got through one episode and stopped posting my podcast because I'm like, this is too limited. But podcasts are meant to just talk about anything. And I listen to so many creators who have 5 podcasts so they could talk about whatever they want. So I'd just like to be able to consolidate and bring that to one. So even if I'm talking about bananas, I will bring it back to traveling. So I read half of the Barron Trump's adventures, and I didn't read any of the Little President at all, or the Last President. I was like, it's because the Trump or the Barron book, they kept calling him Little Barron. So, and actually, we were supposed to record this last year. It's
Right,
2025. We were supposed to, and the funny thing is, I am so glad we're doing it now because there's so much more conspiracy theories that connect. And I was watching TikToks before this so I could refresh because it's been a long time since I was even reading it or listening to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, no way. This is like people were debunking it. But I'm like, honestly, now that the spoiler alert, the plane stuff is happening, it actually kind of connects even more. Then I looked up the last president and I was like, that's insane. I don't know. We'll talk about where we stand at the very end of the podcast. But for right now, let's just dive into Barron Trump's adventures. So, what are some things you want to speak on?
Well, I want to speak on how a lot of the places that he's talking about, of course, some of the places are real places. When he went into the underground adventure, there's these mountains that are there, and I hope I'm saying it right. It's Ural mountains, which has a lot of mystery shrouded around it also. So, and it's over in Russia is where the journey starts. So when he goes into the underground, he talks about going through these mountains. And if we look up the mountains, that's just like so much supernatural that's going on.
So, we did not coordinate on this podcast at all. This was very like last minute. And you brought up the mountains, and I don't know if you could see my phone. No, it won't let you see it. But I literally, the first note I have on my phone is talking about the northern Russian mountains. Okay, so don't move on from this topic. What were you thinking before I go into my spill? Because I could talk about this for a minute.
Okay, so well, no, you go on to your spill, and then I want to see what you since we didn't correspond, and I'm
Okay.
make sure I have it right about these mountains exactly where they're at because I had it written down.
So, okay.
What did you find out?
I wish I would have looked into this more. Like, I really wanted to go on a deep dive study, and maybe we can do another episode on it. But I was listening to this at work because I didn't read it. I was audiobook because library card, get your library cards. And according to the script, he thought Caves to the Underworld was in northern Russia. I connected it to Stranger Things. So,
I
see,
seen some of it. I've seen some. I've not watched the whole thing. No.
you need to watch it because was it the last season? They haven't came out with the very last season, but literally everything is connected to Russia. That's where the portals are to the I don't even I'm gonna call them aliens. And no, they're not from like outer space aliens. They're like, I don't know. You don't know a lot, so but like they're like demons to the underworld. So Stranger Things literally touches on this topic he's talking about. Now, I feel like everyone Barron encounters isn't like out to get him. And have you noticed that?
Right. No, like during the story, it seems like everybody's really friendly towards him and
Yeah.
inviting towards him, and that they're actually throwing feasts and stuff, and they're happy that he's there, and they're
Yeah.
treating him very well as he
And that's just
travels.
unrealistic in my opinion. Like,
Well, it could be. You never know what's this down there for entertainment purposes only. We're talking about in a
I'm such a conspiracy nerd because I'm like, yeah, I think most 99% of the time, well, let's put that down. Let's say 80% of the time you'll encounter, like, if aliens came here to this earth this very day, I wouldn't have any fear, or I would wait to see what they do. Like, obviously, if they come down blazing with guns and shooting and killing, yeah, I'd be scared. But I feel like no one's going to encounter a new place and not try to come in peace. Maybe, unless, I guess, conquerors. But I feel like that 20%, he would at least encounter one being that, and maybe later on, like I said, I didn't finish the story, but none of them were like super mean to him, or like some questioned him and like why, and he didn't agree with a lot of people's beliefs, but that doesn't mean like there was any animosity. But back to the Stranger Things thing, I just connected it to that because it's so funny that Stranger Things uh set had to close the portals in Russia, and that's where the underworld is
Yes.
located. So Russia's up to something.
It's a lot of stuff is happening there, or even with this book, for him to be the author, he is a lawyer who lives in New York City, and of course they had knowledge back then. And for him to go specifically to that area and start this journey there.
There's something like they're always pointing towards Russia when it comes to you know what I mean?
Going into the caves in the underworld, yes. And the
Yeah.
Hollow Earth, mainly with the Hollow Earth series that are conspiracy theories that are going on. So that's where a lot of portals are saying. And, any conspiracy theorist would say they usually have the truth in plain sight. So if
Yeah.
everybody keeps pointing there, then it kind of makes you wonder what's going on. But I guess we can deep dive more into that if anybody's interested. Just leave us a comment and we'll we'll do another podcast. Yes. And then what's funny about this author, Ingersoll Lockhart, he has a lot of conspiracies around him too. Which, I don't know if you want to dive in. Like he even with murder, like there's a whole murder podcast that could be around him about a lady that he was close to that he was thought to believe that killed him. But he also had wrote another book, and it was about Holly. It is oh goodness, I have it right here. I had it right here on my notes.
So Stalin was in 1990 or 1922 to 1952. So that was even before Stalin, which doesn't mean like Russia was even in, like, I'm sure we had beef with Russia at the time, America, because the author's from New York, which is where
From New York.
Yeah.
The last president takes place.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know I had at the time more to say about Stranger Things, probably because I just rewatched it at that time. But I just thought that was an interesting comparison, was Stranger Things
And where it all started.
Okay. So anything else?
Well, where he traveled to, also one of the places he traveled to was, I think it was one of the last where he went to the crystals, to the city of crystals, and he met the queen of the underworld. And you know where they found the crystals? it was real big. There's like really underground crystals. So he wrote about that. And this is as far as the time travel and the portals, on the front cover, what they discovered, what everybody was talking about was he talks about the tuning sticks, about sound,
Mhm.
and he also talks about the spirals, like Nikola Tesla, how they use the spirals in electricity. And you know that Trump's uncle actually
Mhm.
had some of his, let's say, I would say some of his, what would they be called, blueprints.
Mhm.
So that's why they think that he was time traveling to come here, and that's how he won presidency. So, and that goes into the last president. So it's kind of interesting if you fall through with the stories.
What do you know about the last president? Because we'll come back to the Nikola Tesla stuff.
Well, the last president, it starts with a riot about how everybody's fed up with the president, and his name was Byron, which there was talk about him around the time that the books were written. He was the Secretary of State, and he was running for president, and he gave a speech. But in the book, the president is Byron, and they start rioting in New York on Fifth Avenue, and it so happens to be where Trump Towers is. It's where it takes place, where it all starts. So that was a big thing with the conspiracy theories when everybody was talking about it. So it's like there's another thing that's coming up connecting Trump Towers and Barron and the novel all together. So um, it kind of is eerie in a way.
Yeah. Um, I saw this TikTok and he was debunking. He was like, the name Baron is his name isn't Baron, which I noticed that during the book. He is a Baron.
He is a Baron, just like Don is not talking about. He's not saying Donald as in Don. He is a Don back then.
And then a bunch of other stuff, and they said that it's not on fifth, but it's like in the 15th. I don't know. I saw, and I wanted to go deeper into like the debunking, and there's always people who don't. Oh, this isn't real. But there's also, I don't believe. Well, okay, that's a lie. I believe in a lot of conspiracy theories, but I also believe in the debunking of a lot of conspiracy theories.
Hmm.
But this one, I feel like is very, 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 very like side by side when it comes. And nothing in a theory is going to be exact. We don't know the truth. That's the point of a theory, is that we don't know. But it'll make.
And they're always fun, though. It's nice that I always have that curiosity and try to prove and try to find out and doing the research.
Yes. So we're going to backtrack now. And we're going to go back to the hollow earth theory because here are my notes. Oh, it's not even. I'm saying that, the hollow earth theory. Do you know what that is?
Yes. Yes, that there's a whole nother world.
Yes. And that's a real
Earth.
theory.
Right.
And I didn't believe that theory initially. Um,
I can't believe it. The world's vast.
but because at one point I felt like, okay, if I believe that theory, then it's almost like saying the earth is flat. You know what I mean?
It's for it be a flat earth, or if you believe in the hollow earth.
Yeah, like it's two sides of the same coin. So I was like, but coming back to this, it has kind of convinced me that I can see, okay, the earth is a sphere. But have you ever looked at a map and noticed that everything seems so thin, like translucent? Like the only thing that seems solid is the ground we stand on when you look at a picture of Earth. Like if you pull up Google Earth, and I can go so far because I just saw another theory that was talking about like how we can't even leave Earth, that there's a huge dome around us. And
Oh,
I feel like
the first
this
myth.
coincides with the hollow Earth because what if there is people above or beneath us and they're in a dome? And Israel, I think it was Israel. I don't want to be wrong, but have you heard of the green planet?
No, I have not.
Oh my gosh. I don't want to get too far off the topic.
But I believe in the whole earth, and I understand the firmament because, like I said, it's even in the Bible that we have a firmament encasing us, and the what we haven't explored half of, not even 90% of the oceans. I'm not, don't quote me on numbers, but so much of the ocean has not been explored.
They're saying that behind Antarctica there's a wall and we can't pass that wall. Like, so, and we don't know the backside of our Earth. You see a flat Earth and there's water for miles behind us.
Yes, at the beach, all you see is just water. What's out there? I mean,
Yeah.
and then the flight travel, the how the planes fly down, we fly, they don't fly out the other way around. I mean, there's just so much to it.
The next time, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
But as far as, even we live in a mountainous area where we stay at, but what's deep down in those mountains? You see how big the mountains are, you know?
Yeah.
Even though it's a coal mining area not too far from us, you know, they don't mine all of it. So,
And then we're from a state, I'm not going to be too, we're from the Appalachians. So there's already, like, if you hear something saying your name, don't answer your doors. If you this, that, don't reply back to their noises because they're going to come and get you. And we don't know what that is, but
we just know not to do it.
Yeah, it's the whispers of the mountain. So what if there's what if there's like a parallel universe under and you are hearing your name? It's just you're in the mountains so you can hear what they're saying.
Yes, it goes to all that. So the, you know, something being in the mountains in Russia, I mean, it just goes to show up under us there has to be something, or it might be for entertainment purposes.
What was I saying? Oh, so the Israel thing. I don't know if it's Israel or it's one of those countries that are green earth. So everything is supposed to be good for the environment, and that's where we will live in 10 to 20 years of supposedly, which goes back to Elon, which goes back to Nikola Tesla, which goes back to Donald Trump, which goes.
They all came from up out of the green earth, and now they're trying to make it up here.
So there's some people saying that green earth isn't on Earth. It's like above or below. They're saying Mars, like when they send us to Mars, it's not going to be Mars. It's just going to be the next layer of Earth. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
And it's funny because if we go up to the next layer of Earth, will the people underneath us go to our layer of Earth and deal with what we had left? And what do they know? And are they smarter? Because in the Barron Trump stuff, they were more intelligent than they had different ways of life. They had different technologies, but he took a lesson from each person. And compared to the time this book was written, they were way advanced than Barron was at this time. Right. This goes back. Don Fume says, interior of our world is inhabited and that the earth is not solid. Which goes back to the Donald stuff. Don was his, what is he?
His God.
Yeah.
They called him the master of masters, is what they referred to him of. So he was very intelligent.
They went to the underground chambers because too much destruction has happened. So if too much destruction had happened, what I'm assuming is above them, why are there still people above? Why didn't everyone go down? You know what I mean?
Or maybe and going back to time travel, and even we're uncovering so much of under the soil here now, as far as how we're excavating the earth and finding, you know, pyramids and tunnels and artifacts. So there was a time even to cite prehistoric days where the earth had started all over again, that so many of us making up ground, that so many of us venture back out.
That's true. It could be when humans and I'm not saying dinosaurs lived with humans, but you know, like Ice Age time where humans were there, and maybe some were like it's better to stay in the ground, and some said it's better to truck. So you're right. Maybe It was just at a time where people were doing what they could to survive. And civilization has restarted so many times. You could argue that after each world war, civilization has like
Restarted, or there's been a big boom.
Yeah.
Or we've had visitors maybe from the inner earth that came and helped us restart, or came and gave us technology. We had so many technology booms and advances, and just coming from nothing, 0 to 100, it seems like in just a few moments. So it's very interesting how this is known knowledge, or known and written about and documented and talked about and movies made about it, but it's not really known or it's supposed to be not known or covered up,
Mm-hmm.
supposedly.
So
So
to go deeper into the book, I'm going to read kind of like what these two books are again. I know we've talked about it, but just to have another article's opinion. The two novels that fueled the wild theories are Barron Trump's marvelous adventure, or A Marvelous Underground Journey, which published in 1888. The Last President, which was published in 1996 or 1896. I'm not used to saying the word 18 in front of 1896. The books feature time travel, mysterious portals, and uncanny parallels to real life, according to The Sun. The first book follows a young aristocrat named Barron Trump who lives in Castle Trump. He is portrayed as an intelligent, curious, and often arrogant child who's guided by a mentor called Dom. The boy embarks on a fantastical journeys to discover magical portals, including one in Russia. Um, I'm going to butcher his name. Notably, the character's full name is Willem Heinrich Sebastian von Trump. Hints at German ancestry, much like the Trump family, whose roots trace back to Germany. Um, the second book, The Last President, describes a shocking and contentious election that leaves New York City in chaos, like was mentioned. Protesters outraged by the election of populist president stormed Fifth Avenue, where Trump Tower stands today. Which, as I said, that we've debunked that. The book isn't literally quoting Fifth Avenue and Trump Tower, but the resemblance is hard to pass. So even this article is saying that this is the similarities between the conspiracy and the actual novel. These details from the novels have fueled wild theories on social media. While some speculate that the author of the two books had access to prophetic knowledge, others suggest that Trump himself is a time traveler. According to The Sun, the latter theory ties back to Trump's late uncle, John G. Trump, which is what I wanted to talk about too. A renowned scientist who studied the papers of Nikola Tesla, a Serbian American engineer, futurist, and innovator. So, what we know about Nikola Tesla and John G. Trump is when Nikola Tesla passed, I looked this up. They said that there's no evidence of Nikola Tesla studying time travel. I think that's a lie.
I thought that was really way. Oh, he was genius. He might have been from the Hollow Earth, because they don't even really give him credit, and that's so sad. I mean, he was great thinker. In my opinion, he was better than Einstein. He had a lot of knowledge, and Einstein don't haunt me, but I'm telling you, his blueprints and his contributions, if you really what we have that they haven't locked or put away, which a lot of his work has been put away and given away, and this person had pieces and this person had pieces.
Yeah.
If it would come together, I think we would have enough to, well, time travel would be easily accessible to everyone.
Well, and every great scientist, in my opinion, that wasn't a philosopher, maybe studies something about speed, travel, or I don't know, just those two things, speed and travel. They always talked about time travel somewhere, even if it's in passing, because it's just what if you think about those things. If you're that smart, I would want to know, could I solve this? Like even Einstein, like you said, what Baba speed is in MC squared. That's
Right.
you know. And Nikola Tesla kind of pioneered for where we're at today. I mean, I don't know if he would have went the same route as Elon, but I I mean,
If given the chance of the funds, I don't think that it's not meant for everybody, his knowledge. So a lot of it wouldn't, he wouldn't have got the credit. He wouldn't have got,
no, definitely not.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. He should have been more known and talked about than Einstein. And I think it's just two different times because Tesla was born right after all this happened. He was born like 1912 or something. I could be totally wrong. I could be, or he, I'm not sure. So yeah, I don't even either. But, or like just now starting in his career after these books were made.
But for,
But
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say his time traveling, supposedly his time traveling documents went to John G. Trump, which is a relative of a past relative to Donald Trump.
Right. See, the
So
big with Tesla is he did work a lot with energy, and we're discovering a lot now about energy, even the energy of within our bodies and the energy of how it's moving and how sound energy, how we can move things and construct things and even use as a weapon because even the sound could completely shatter our bodies as far as the energy of it. So, and destroy things. So he was working with all of that. You don't know.
yeah, and there's just in this conversation, there's so many episodes we could do after this. Like, at the end of it, we're gonna have to try to set a poll up or something to see what people say. Um, but there's a quote that said, "The thing about time travel is if it ever to exist, then it does," which is true. Because that means that we're in one linear plane and you could go in and out of that plane. And then there's theories that you could create multiple planes based on where you've jumped to in time. And this also brings up a point that, you know, how people have been saying it just feels like we're in the wrong timeline. Supposedly, every time someone travels, we feel it just isn't significant enough to notice. So maybe we are jumping different timelines and maybe
The same thing with the CERN opening and doing have you ever heard of CERN? Smashing the atoms together to try to open the hole, and everybody was talking about that because it happened not too long ago. Was it on Christmas or New Year's? And they're saying that it switched time. I have to see exactly when, and that could be a whole nother episode in itself because they're saying they opened a portal which threw us into a different timeline, and that's why we're getting a lot of the butterfly effects and where we're getting a lot of the oh, what is it called? Where like the Berenstain Bears, and then they say think it's
oh
really
yeah,
Berenstain Bears.
yes,
What is
I know
those
what you're
called?
talking about.
Oh yeah,
But I also want to bring up that Mike Pence, there was a the president in the book even appoints a man to his cabinet named Pence. And then that was another striking coincidence. I don't feel like that's too big. What's funny is that Mike Pence and Donald Trump don't even like each other right now, from what I can tell. So I wonder if some things happen that weren't supposed to happen. Um,
yes. That's interesting fact because if he was a time traveler, or if his family time traveled and came here before, maybe his presidency, and I'm not trying to say, but he's trying to fix things. If
yeah.
this conspiracy theory is true that his family time traveled, and I don't want to put this out here, maybe he's traveled here to try to right their wrongs.
He's tearing down the system to build it up. Um, but at what cost? Maybe.
Yes,
Um,
yes, a big cost, and I don't. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not looking. Some people say it's not looking so well right now.
I'm gonna read this theory from Reddit. I didn't get the name of the Reddit person. Literally, my screenshot cuts it off. So, but I you could just look at r/books and probably find it. It said my running theory is that Donald is Barron from the books. He is actually from the 1800s and has moved around time and now is our president or is in our present. After the collapse of the US, he will be degrade in mental facilities and probably suffer some physical injuries in the ensuing conflict. My thinking is that Lockwood received his story ideas and knowledge unwittingly, not purposely trying to predict the future, but rather encountering a failing Trump who time traveled back to the 1800s, his home, where Lockwood encounters him not completely lucid, and while Lockwood is tending the strange man, the man Trump's almost incoherent talk inspires Lockwood to write, cue the books. We already know Trump is not the most coherent to begin with. Add the insanity of him time traveling and our current events, weird as they are now to us, and add a small dose of fever from injuries and Alzheimer's, and you can have the books as believable product. I suck at reading apparently. It's a lot. Dang, hold on. I think this accounts for the things in the book. The best dying Trump keeps mentioning an older man, Pence. Lockwood isn't sure who he is, so he puts him a side role in the cabinet. A name like Pence would have much higher chance of enduring the difficulties of communication than his position in relation to Trump. Likewise, it creates a very fun situation where Trump is caught in a time loop. Um, he says I'm half ironic. Um, but the comment under which I also only got half of that says anyone who's casually time traveling is not failing. You have to wake up from the Project Mockingbird. And then I didn't finish it. But
So they're trying to say that maybe that he's Lockwood, the author of the books.
no, they're in. Oh, go ahead.
Because I ran across the article too, and I have to find it. Where they're saying that maybe his family is, and he's reporting back to Lockwood about everything that's happening, and that maybe he does have Alzheimer's.
The funny
And one
thing
thing,
is he probably does. Allegedly. But anyway, I wish I would have screenshot the person below, but I like the point where the person below says anyone who's time traveling um doesn't fail. But Barron both in the books, they're saying Trump is Barron. Barron is not
his son.
it's not
That's
gonna
the
be
name of his son.
um or knowing Trump's personality, even before his claim to politics, he was very, I'm going to do this first, or I don't care what anyone thinks. And in the books, if you read the books, he was stubborn at first. So maybe he can fail. Maybe he didn't go far back enough in the future to see everything play out and go back. You know what I'm trying to say? So maybe he was like, oh, I got this. I kind of understand what's going on. And then did just full fledged into the future and try to do everything he could. And I don't know. I think failing is if you watch enough time traveling things, people fail all the time at time travel.
Right. And then they go back and they go,
They fix it and it's a continuous loop. And that's what that first person said. Maybe he's stuck in a continuous loop trying to go back and do what he can.
I'm very interested take on that. So
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, right?
So, and this might go into another series because there's so much surrounding that author. He wrote another book, which is Laconics of Cult is the name of it, and superstition. So there's so many chapters in that too, where it's more of he's debunking the God theory and going into cult. So that's, but my main thing about him is I stumbled across a thread and they went into him being a suspect of a murder there in New York of this lady. And that's what I've been reading about today. So it's quite a bit on that. There was a doctor and he had wrote to him and when he passed away, what they were saying that he time traveled too. And he time traveled and that's how he got out of the murder of this lady. Share.
He hit up his homie Trumps and said, I'm you being accused of this murder. Let me skedaddle with time travel machine, and I only ask you for that one favor since I built your legacy, huh?
Right. And I had to go because it's in the Library of Congress in New York. And I actually pulled up the library articles and the doctor's notes from this. And this might have to be another podcast. I mean,
No,
we get it.
and that's if you want us to do a part 2 on just the author and maybe that book. What were you saying? Cult?
Laconics of Hope.
We might have to look at that because that is right up my alley.
Okay, so he had another pen name. He has more books up there. So he read up under a pen name of Irwin Longwood or Longhorn. Pretty much it as far as that goes.
Well, I got one more thing, and then I probably am done too.
Okay.
Okay. Well, done as in, I think I'll have something for you at the end, but I have to think about it. So, the funny thing is, back to New York and the protest and the riot, and there's always protests happening in New York. Like, that's nothing new. I just saw, like, you know, the people are just not happy and the prices of things are about to go up. So you saw that he did the tariff stuff and now we're in a tariff war. We're in a war with Canada and maybe Canada, China, and Mexico.
Okay, so Mexico, he had a phone call with Mexico, I heard, and that he gave them, is it 5 or 10 more days because they're supposed to be sending. Mexico agreed to send people to the border to stop the traffic of the drugs. I have that article. I actually saw that today. So he had made a phone call. Yeah, 10 days. They were given 10 days. 10 extra days,
Hmm.
which is interesting.
I think so too. I never really thought Mexico was super into the war for the fact that I know it hurts Canada more. It hurts us the worst. I don't know what's like we've been talking about it. I don't know what he's brewing up really. I don't think he's going to send all of those to talk about politics. I don't think he's going to send all those immigrants that are at the border in Mexico. I do think they're going to be in camps. I really think it's going to get worse, allegedly. But
Yeah.
the reason I bring that up is because of um did you see where Canada threatened to turn off the electricity? And did you see what states it was going to affect? It was going to affect New York. I'm glad to figure out this thing.
That's why this book is just like really the last president is.
And that's
That would definitely start a riot. I mean,
and that's why I was like, okay, if we would have done this when we were planning on doing this, I was like, I don't know. But now that that's happening, and the book said it was going to affect New York, and but I read something that said Canada's only going to do red states.
But don't they have access to like 3 states? I thought that was up there. But yeah, I'm not quite sure. I didn't do my research on that.
I didn't do too much digging. I just saw it like right after I got off of work, and I was like, oh my gosh. So are they going to spare New York? Because if they spare New York, then does that, how, I don't know.
That would really hit home, though. I don't think that that would be something to do if I was like leader of a country or whatever. Because if I would want to get a point across, I'm going to hit hard, and New York would.
Yeah, New York would have been in there. New York has too big of a population. And honestly, I saw like when you looked at the electoral map, a lot of New York, apparently a lot of places in New York that are typically blue were red this time. Like there was so much red happening in New York. I could go. I need to make a politics conspiracy
Theory.
podcast because he makes it too easy.
He would be on there every day. Like, did you see what happened today? Did you see all the terrors he's talking about? I mean, his first day in office right there would give us days worth.
And anyway,
I mean, we could. It's gonna be hard. We get too much imported. We can't stand alone. I mean, we're not made to be alone as a human, as an individual, and not as a country. We need allies. We can't cut them all off.
And they've always been our allies. China, not so much. But also that goes back. Apparently, there's stuff connected to the planes too. But I didn't look into that too much. So we'll have to do a part 2 on this.
Right.
We'll have to get our notes together, say what we're talking about. Be a little bit more coordinated. I think I'm gonna do a poll other than the Barron stuff, Trump stuff. We touched on a lot. We touched on aliens, hollow earth theory,
flat earth. Flat earth. Time travels and portals and
Mars. Whether Mars is real, like we're in a dome, the Earth's in a dome.
Yeah, the firmament. Which whenever Elon shot his record, do you see all that where they said he hit the firmament and he shot his rocket? I said record. Oh goodness.
So if you want to hear about any of this stuff, and don't worry, like I will have regular travel content too, if that's what you're more into.
But and if they want to hear about the Lockhart conspiracy and him being suspected of murder, we could do a murder mystery one because there's a lot that's going on that unsolved mystery, unsolved murder.
So that's what Auntie Sheena and Allie is like conspiracy. So that will be going on the travel part of my podcast too. If you would rather me make a whole different podcast for this stuff, I will. But I plan on actually having guests come on and talk about traveling. Again, I'm Tania. This is my aunt, Sheena Cureton, and we were talking about Barron Trump's underground adventures and, well, it's really underworld adventures, and The Last President by Ingersoll Lockwood. And if you want to hear more from us, check below, check the description. Auntie Sheena, again, where can we find you?
You can find me on TikTok up under Vexed Hippie and also on Facebook and Instagram, Sheena Cureton.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.